Hi everyone, so I thought I'd just make a quick tutorial and show you what I would like you to do for the biodiversity exercise. So what you're going to do is first you're going to go to the Biodiversity Heritage Library and you can look through these albums and decide what you would like to investigate or what you would like to work with. You can go by albums. I believe there is just a photo stream. Yeah, here we go. So you can just really go through the photo stream. I think a better way is probably to go through albums so you can decide, am I interested in butterflies or flowers or whatever your approach is going to be. I already have one open here. I love images of insects, and I think what I'm going to do in my demonstration is do a monograph on these different insects. So I'm going to choose a few of these. So I'm just going to go through and show you sort of how you would go about this. So the first thing I would do is, let's see, I'm going to choose one that's a little varied where I can sort of draw 2 or 3 different insects from, but I'll probably get more of these. But maybe to start with, let's go over, I quite like these guys here. So I'm going to click on this. And then there is a link down here. This is to download the photo. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to do the original size, 1922 by 3143. And I'm just going to save this file. And you can put this file where you want. That makes more sense to you. But for now, I'm just going to put this in my downloads because it's just a demo. Then I'm going to head over to Rhino. I'm going to my templates and I'm going to make a new file. And so I'm asking you all to do an 11 by 17 tabloid size. So we're going to choose inches. Let's go to small object inches. I don't want to make this a template. My default template is small objects millimeters, but I'm just going to double click on inches on this template here. And that will open up a new Rhino file. I'm just going to resize a little bit to give myself a bit more room. So I'm also asking you to work in top view. So what you want to do is maximize top view. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And I actually don't want to use this grid, so it's a very easy way to get rid of the grid and just start with a clean slate. So I'm going to type in grid, enter, and I'm going to tell it not to show the grid. I'm going to keep my world axis because I'm going to put the origin point of my rectangle at this point. And I'm going to do that just for the active viewport since I'm only going to be using the top view. So I click done. So now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start using my layers. I want you to start practicing with your layers. So let's change this default. I'm going to double click on the name default and I'm going to call this artboard. So I'm sort of using the language of Illustrator where each different page is called an artboard. Press enter. So this layer is in black and it's activated right now. So remember, when you want to activate a layer, right now this layer is not activated. I have to click on this little radio button here for it to be activated. So we know now that artboard is activated. I'm going to type in rectangle, enter. First corner of rectangle, I can either point towards this or I could just type in 0. And by typing in 0, my x, y, and my z coordinates will be 0, and I know that that point will be exactly there. So I'm going to press enter. The other corner, or length, so I'm going to work in portrait mode. So in other words, my length is going to be shorter than the width. Sorry, the other way around. My length is going to be more than my width. So I'm going to type in 17, enter, and then 11, enter. Actually, I did get that the wrong way around. So let's just rotate this. There we go. And I'm just going to move this over to 0, 0. So how I can do that is type in move, enter. I'm going to move from this point here. Let's activate point. And I'm going to move it to 0. There we go. So now I know that this rectangle is 11 by 17. And I can double check that by typing in dimension. Here's my first dimension point. Let's make sure that my end snap is on. From this end to this end 11, yep, spacebar to repeat the command from this point to this point 17, and we are in inches. So everything is all set here. I'm just going to delete this because we don't need this for our purposes. Just select that and press delete. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this layer, the artboard layer. I'm going to move to this next layer here, and let's lock this one here. So now you see I can't select it, I can't move it. Great, we're all set. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import my reference image. So let's call this ref image and press enter. And to import an image, there are two ways to do it. You can go to surface plane picture frame. Here we are, picture. Or I can just type in picture. So it's going to ask me what picture I want to import. I'm going to go to my downloads, and this is my image. And now you see it says, where is the first corner of picture? And I'm actually going to go with this corner and stretch this out to about here. There we go. Now I also want to lock this, but actually what I'm going to do first is just move it to the side. No, on second thought, let's move it back to here. That's fine. Okay, let's keep it there. So before I lock this, what I usually do when I trace images in Rhino is I change the transparency a little bit, and to find that, you select the image, and I'm going to go down here to properties, and I am going to click on, let me see if I can remember this right here, on material. I always forget where this is, but it takes a little while to load. And then you're going to scroll down and you'll see transparency. And right now my object transparency is 0, but I'm just going to bump this up to, let's see, about here. You want to be able to see the image just enough so you can actually trace it, but you also don't want it to interfere with your curves. Great, so now let's go to the third layer. Let's lock, make sure we activate that. Let's lock that reference layer. And this layer, I'm going to actually create each one of my insects on a different layer just so I can practice and get used to using different layers. So I'm just going to call this one Insect 1. Okay, so these two layers are locked. My artboard is locked, my reference image is locked, and I'm now ready to trace. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch off my gumball. I'm going to switch off grid snap, because I actually don't want to snap to the grid. I want to be quite precise in how I model. Great, so let's start modeling. So I think I will start with this bug right here. Now, one thing I see immediately about this bug is that there's some kind of symmetry happening here. And these are the kind of things I want you to start looking at as you start making your own designs and start modeling. And as you can see, the symmetry is sort of right here. And this is not an exercise in accuracy. This is really an exercise for you to get used to using curves and different transform and rotate, mirror, things like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually create a line. So I'm going to type in line, and I'm just going to roughly, I'm going to do it from both sides. I'm going to click in here. I'm going to hold down Shift to make a straight line. And I'm just going to draw a line through the center of this bug, because now you can see I have the left side and I have the right side. So I really only need to trace one side of this bug, and then I can mirror it. So that's great. So let's do that. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And let's start by using just a control point curve. And you can find that under this menu here, under control point curve, or I can just start typing curve, and enter. So it's asking me for the start of the curve. I'm going to make sure I have my near activated so that I can find that line right there. And let's start now. Now, I'll be doing a little bit of talking while I do this, but you can see that I am not being extremely precise, and the reason for that is when I am making geometry, and I'm using curves, For reasons that will become obvious as you progress in this class, you want to use as few control points as possible when you express your geometry in your curves, because it makes your modeling a lot easier later on. So you can see I wasn't being totally correct with following these lines, but now what I can do is I can zoom in here. When I select my curve, you'll see that now I can move these points around. I can either do it by just pointing these, moving these points around by just selecting them. I could also use the gumball, which gives you the option to do this, but I find the gumball more effective once I'm starting to work in 3D. I find that just being able to select the control points here is plenty enough for me. So I'm just going to clean this up a little bit, like so. I'm not going to be too precise because I don't want you to sit here and watch me do this, but I just want to give you an idea of what I'm doing here. There we go. Maybe I want to bring this out a little bit. But what I want here are nice clean curves that I can work with. Now, for example, here, maybe I want this curve to be slightly more pronounced here. So what I'm going to do is actually insert a point. So I'm going to go to my points here, and you'll see there's here insert control point. It's asking me to select the curve where I want to insert a control point. So I'm going to select that, and you'll see that my cursor is following the curve, and it's telling me where, it's asking me where would you like to insert this control point, and I think I want it about here. And when I'm done, I'll just say enter, and now you see I have another control point that I can work with and sort of adjust this curve as I'm going along. Here we go. Great, this looks fine to me. I'm not gonna, you might want to be more precise in your modeling. It's completely up to you, but for this exercise I am just demoing. Okay, so let's see. I also wanted to show you curve interpolate. So that is here in the curve interpolate points, or I can just start typing int interp curve, which is the command line for curve interpolate points. And you'll see that this works slightly differently. So I'm going to go here and I want to snap to this point here. So you'll see that I am creating control points, but my my curve is interpolated by those points. It's really moving through those points. So that's just another way that you can design curves or make curves, is interpolate point, or the other one that I just showed you, which was control point curve. And there's reasons to use both at different times, and you will learn sort of which one's more useful for you at which times. Right, so I'm going to pause this video and just finish up my sketch here, and I will be right back. Okay, so I went ahead and put in all my extra curves and lines, and I'm pretty happy with the design. I have a few little details, but I left a few things undone because I just want to go over a few editing, curve editing techniques. As you can see here, I'm sort of going over these lines, and one quick way to get rid of this line here and that one is I'm going to select all the curves I want to work with, which is these ones here, and I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to type in trim, and everything I select now will be removed from my actual sketch. So I want to remove this line here, this one here, this one here, and I'm going to keep that one, and let's press done. Okay, now you'll see I have some cleanup here to do as well. So let's go ahead and select those curves here, and similarly trim, and here is what I would like to get rid of. I'm actually going to get rid of all of these. I'm going to have this leg move behind, even though this is sort of see-through. I would like this leg to move behind this the wing over here. We have a few more here, so let's say done. And here I'm going to just trim off this little bit here. And looks like we have a little bit more work to do here. Trim. Let's delete that one there. Aha, now this one it seems that, oh yeah, it did work. So I just select that. It really intersects right there and was able to get rid of that. So I could probably get rid of that as well. And let's zoom in even more, get rid of that one. I want that to intersect nice and cleanly with that curve. And there we go. We're all set here. I left these smaller bits. I wanted to show you how much you can do with a circle to deform a circle. So I'm going to type in circle, and I'm going to make sure it's deformable. And let's just draw a little circle here. I'm not going to be very specific. Now with my gumball, this time I'm going to use it because you can see I have a lot of control points. And I'm going to zoom in, and now you can see I have all these points that I can select and move. And that's kind of an easy way to start with a nice circle and then work your way around and move these points around. So let's move these points as well, this one and this one. And you can sort of see how I can start to affect that shape. That's one way of doing it. Of course, the other way of doing this would have been to, I could create a little circle here, copy and paste that, move it down to here. Let's make this one a little smaller. I'm holding down Shift while I'm making that smaller. And now let's do something a little bit different. I'm going to type in curve. I'm going to make sure I connect here and connect here. Press Enter, press spacebar to do the same command. And now what I can do is select all of these, and I see this line here I wasn't very clean with, so let's do that one more time. So curve, I'm going to zoom in a little. Let's start from the quadrant. That's going to make things a little easier on us, and go back to here. There we go. Select all of this, and with trim I can now get rid of this. I can get rid of this, and now you see I can just say done, and I'm going to join all these lines, and now I have one line here. And of course, if you're not happy with how something turned out here, you can really go in there and finesse that a bit, but that's sort of how you would create a shape like this. I'm not working extremely cleanly here, but you sort of get the idea. Right, and then let's add this as well. In this case, I think I might do, no, I'm going to do curve here. Snap, and I'm just going to roughly follow this here and make sure I snap to this line here. And then we're missing just this one little piece here. So I'll just quickly, there we go. And then lastly, maybe I want this here. I see I didn't do a very nice job here, so let's just redo this. First what I'm going to do is trim this very little bit here. Oh, that didn't work, so it looks like we're not intersecting there completely. It doesn't look like it, but so what I might do here is I might say line, and I want to connect to the intersection, and I'm also going to do both sides. So this is kind of overkill, but I just want to show you some of these editing techniques. Select everything, and now when I say trim, you'll see that I can trim it exactly there. There we go. And now I'm just going to draw that little foot right here. And that looks pretty good for my purposes anyway. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror this whole collection of curves here. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything on this side of the line. Now I'm going to type in mirror. It's asking me for the start of the mirror plane. This is the start of my mirror plane. And when I go up here, this is the end of my mirror plane. And there we go. And I can go ahead and delete this because I know that that line was exactly in the middle. So you'll see my design is a little different from here, but we're not being super precise right here. We were just, this is, you know, an exercise for us to trace. And now I am done with this. So the last thing I recommend is that you select everything here. Now, if you really want to be finessey, you can like trim that a little bit there. Probably have that there as well. You might see things like that that you want to correct. But now I am going to group these lines. And now you see if I go to a different layer and I hit this little light bulb, you'll see that that insect is on the insect1 layer. So now let's go here and I'm going to type in insect2 and I'm going to go ahead and trace another insect. Okay, I'm going to pause again here and come back once I have traced a few more things.